Becoming Parents podcast. I'm Jen Taylor, your host. I am mom of 18, and you can find me on momsrunningit.com. Remember, give a shout out to those who are brave enough to share their stories with us on how they have become parents. Let's dive right in. Hello, today I'm with Alana Heim, and I love you so much.
I love you. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so excited. We actually both live in Reno, Nevada, and we personally know each other really well. I actually will talk about your coaching at the end, but you are the best coaching money I ever spent. And I'm not saying that to plug you. I genuinely, I have worked with so many coaches, and your coaching made the most significant positive changes in my life. So we will talk about that soon. And
Thank you.
welcome.
Yay, I'm so excited. Let's dive in.
Yes. So the first thing, first of all, you were on my podcast before 3 times. Those links are in the show notes. And also the links to all of your social media are in the show notes. And I want people to make sure they jump on those. You delivered twins.
Yes, and they are turning 8 very soon in the month of April. So it's kind of crazy. I'm always like, "Wait, how did we get here? We actually have made it this far."
I think we all feel that way. Like we're all excited to have our kids and you're pregnant and it's all like super exciting. And then it happens and you're like, wow, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? And then you start to get through it. So your first pregnancy is twins. You didn't have any trouble getting
No.
pregnant.
First pregnancy, it was a single, was my daughter
Okay,
who's almost 14. So yeah, so
got it.
luckily I'd already had a child and that pregnancy was actually pretty easy. And then I
Okay.
would say the pregnancy with the twins was even easier.
Okay, so back up to your daughter. I had them backwards. So you had your daughter easy, labor was fine, no pregnancy complications, delivery.
Was great. I got to, have her vaginally. Um, she was full term, like all the things. And then even with the twins, they were full term. So, 37 weeks in a day.
Wow.
The main piece was I was able to work out until 30 weeks. I was super healthy. The pregnancy was great. No back issues. Saw my chiropractor throughout the pregnancy, which I did not do with my first. And I highly recommend it. My OB flat out told me, don't go to the chiropractor. And I knew how badly my back actually got kind of messed up for my first pregnancy that I was like, no, my intuition is go to the chiropractor. So my back was amazing. I had plenty of space for the 2 kids. It was great. So that's where I didn't listen to her. And I should have done the same for delivery. But instead, I let myself get talked into doing a C-section.
So that's part of the title that we have is not listening to your intuition. So on round 1, easy pregnancy, great delivery, everything went as planned, except intuitively you wanted to go to the chiropractor and instead you listened to the doctor and it really messed up your back.
No one told me to go. I'd always gone, but for some reason I didn't go
Got it.
uh, as much as I should have. And especially being pregnant, it's like you need all the space you can get. And anyway, I had my lumbar was really messed up for years. It took many adjustments to get it right. So pregnancy kind of messed it up in the first time.
And I want to point out that we're really speaking strongly about following your intuition as a woman with your own body that's pregnant. Like the doctors know a lot and that's great and we need them or the midwives or however you do that. However, you still are your first best intuition, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know what you need, you have a sense of what the baby needs, right? It's like that
Yeah.
intuition when you're like, "Okay, something doesn't feel right. I think something's not right," and everyone tells you, "Oh, you're imagining things." No, we have that gut instinct.
Yeah. And then okay, so take us to the twins. When did you find out you're having twins? How much of a shock was this? Like take me through that part first cuz
So at the time, my firstborn was at Montessori, which is a private school, and we knew we're getting pregnant, we're going to have another kid. Well, as we're at the doctor, and it was kind of towards the end of the first term when we could get the appointment or whatnot. Um, I'd also been tracking my food. So I knew you only needed to eat like 500 calories more if you're pregnant. And yeah, I was starving all the time. So we go to the doctor and she's like looking and she's like, oh, look, there's two. And then she keeps looking. And I was like, stop looking. Like, don't find more. Like, oh gosh. And so I was so in shock because immediately was like, oh gosh, how do we put two more kids into private school? And so anyway, then it made sense like why I was so hungry. I was feeding three of us. And from that point, it was just like, we were in absolute shock. And so I know that because we can be explicit, my husband, he just brought it up the other day, his post to share with the world, because this is how he's just very direct. He's like, went to the vagina doctor, motherfucking twins, y'all. Like that's how crazy shocked we were. And then of course people got offended in the way he shared it. But it was like, that was our what? Like it wasn't planned. It was just nature, me probably being older, being able to drop more eggs and two.
I mean, how cool is that? That just automatically on your own, nothing, no in vitro, no infertility. You just like naturally got pregnant with twins. And how exciting was, how do you feel about the 5 year age gap? 6 years, 6 year age gap.
Yep. It's like 5.5. Amazing. So
Okay.
Tayla was a kindergartner when they were born. And she's just such a great, amazing kid. Like she can do everything for herself. She still gets herself off to school, gets herself ready. So in that haze of like not sleeping and taking care of two, she could get herself ready. And then my dad would come pick her up and take her to school. So she's always been like mother hen, very helpful. And then what's a blessing is because she's so much older, they have each other. So even as she's this teenager who's going and doing her own thing and she's going to leave before them at some point, it's like they have each other. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool that the way it worked out.
Tell me about, so the pregnancy was good. You can eat more now. You're not starving. You got to 37 weeks without no bed rest, nothing, just perfectly like that's really phenomenal.
And I am a CPA and at the time still did tax season. So I went through tax season and my twins were born April 21st. We made it through tax season, born right after. It was like, bam.
Wow. Super pregnant with twins. How uncomfortable were you like the first time you were uncomfortable because of your back, but the second time it's just a lot more space. Did you feel a lot of discomfort in that end part?
No,
Not that you remember.
It wasn't. I mean, sure, I was kind of like, I mean, I think because my boobs were so big, that was the part that was always uncomfortable going to bed. And then you're not supposed to sleep on a certain side. And it's like, just making sure my arms didn't fall asleep and making sure, like you can be comfortable in bed because it's like, it was just huge. My stomach was just huge.
Huge. So you go to the hospital, you went into labor on your own?
No, it was scheduled. Although I kind of feel like it was starting to already happen the night before. But no, it was a planned C-section because I was 35, which was high risk, even though super easy pregnancy and I felt great. Right. But then also with twins, it was like, oh, we need to do a C-section. And that's the part that I still regret to this day because I didn't even allow myself the opportunity to see if I could deliver them vaginally. And I let her tell me how I need to do it. And I had that sense of, I don't know if I'm supposed to. And so, fast forward 8 years later, I still have a massive scar tissue, like a lump in my scar tissue that still can cause me issues. My son, he was the second to come out. He was like yanked. All I can remember is my whole body like being yanked around because he was so far up there. He didn't want to come out. And even now, just intuitively and seeing how he is energetically, emotionally, he's been angry. And part of me looks back and goes, oh my God, this little guy was angry from the moment he came out because he didn't want to. He didn't want to make his entrance yet, and he was forced to come out. And it's like that same reaction is how he gets when he's pissed.
Hmm. What this is such a hard one with twins. I mean, do you even know, looking back, were they both head down? Were they, because there can be a lot of complications. I'm all for
Yeah.
VBACs and I'm all for twin births every single time you can possibly do stuff like that. I'm 100% on board for that. However, there are higher risks and complications. So what is your feeling looking back, and what questions would you have asked? So if someone's in a similar situation, feeling that way and scheduling that C-section, what would you have done differently, and how would you have asked to avoid that at all costs?
Yeah, it would have been better to at least ask more questions, just
Mm.
any questions really, because I think back then too, where I was at that point in my life, I wasn't yet like asking any questions. I wasn't speaking up for myself. And that's what I've really learned to do. So questions like, if we, even if the babies aren't head down yet, or if they are, if one is, or at what point would it be more that emergency C-section? Could we still go for vaginal? And if something changes, um, yeah, and it's hard. And I think that's why it's just easy to say, you've got two, we just know how to get them out and have it
Yeah.
be okay versus, having to deal with, do they have to get flipped? Is it safe? Um, yeah, so but it just felt like I never had the choice. That's because I
Right.
allowed myself to not ask the questions and find out, is there a choice? And of course, I was in a twins group, and there were plenty of twin pregnancies that did go for vaginal delivery, and then maybe they had to have a C-section or they were able to deliver. But again, I had never even considered like home birth or any other options. I just knew I wanted whatever was healthiest and best for my twins and making sure that they were safe. And so we went with that. But that's been the regret, or kind of this
Yeah.
feeling of I didn't listen to myself. I didn't like stand up for myself. And I let her tell me, okay, we're doing a C-section. And I was like, okay.
I think also having this scar and having 8 years pass and having a scar that bothers you is like insult to injury. Like, did I really need to have the scar? I think it's different because I have a scar hip to hip, but it was an emergency and it saved my life.
Mm,
So, you know, and it was during the loss of a pregnancy. It's just that, like that. When I look at my scar, I have it because my life was saved. And when you
mm,
look at your scar, you have it because you didn't speak up. And there's a much different feeling on just the scar in general, and then you have issues with it. So it's like, it's not like something you could just like get over, like it's too late. It still causes you issues. Have you ever looked at having it reduced, or because you said there's a lump in it?
I've done natural stuff as much as I can. So I've done lots of, let's say, shadow work, and even like getting to more of the emotional layer of tapping with it, and exploring like what else is really going on. And that was the bigger part, is I was really upset with myself because I didn't get to push. And that was
Oh,
like it was just this interesting layer of, I didn't get to push. And as the mother here, we know what our body needs, and we know how to push.
yeah.
Like, we know how to deliver even if we've never done it. It's just instinctively in us. And I wasn't able to, and like so much emotion was there because it was taken away. I allowed that to not be
Mhm.
able to happen, right? It was me making that decision. Um, and then just recognizing that I wasn't happy with myself and the situation, and I had to forgive it. And so more and more, it doesn't cause as much pain, but it's still there. And I still am like, okay, I know the body can heal itself. Like, I know there's ways. And um, yeah, it is. It's just that reminder, and
Yeah.
potentially the reminder in a good way to say, trust yourself, speak up,
Yeah.
Do what's best for you, not what anybody else thinks.
Right. And I mean, there is a point where you need to you need to listen to the doctors, and there are life saving, and you don't want to do anything dangerous. There's just so much more before that happens. And it's super convenient for doctors to put it on their schedule and just have you just go in and do it when they want. How long after the twins, because you are a CPA and you are working in a traditional sense and you are unhappy, and you share a lot of that story. Well, you've shared that story on my podcast, but you shared on your website a little bit. But like bridge that gap between your dissatisfaction with your job and your career, and then um you know when you made that change, because I don't know when that is.
Mm. Yeah. So the beauty of the twins, I always say Hazel and Hunter, they are my catalyst. Like they were the big
Ah.
like catalyst to everything. So around the time, probably before I had them, it's like right around there, I was already having a sense of I needed to learn and learn different stuff, and I found human design. And that's the part where I really realized I have other gifts. I'm here for something more. I wasn't actually working in the way in which I'm designed. So I loved my work. Like I loved my life up until I had them. And it's really interesting because then once I had them, everything changed. Had them right
Okay.
after tax season. So I had almost a whole year to work from home to be with them. Fast forward to me knowing more about my design. I'm actually designed to be internal markets in my environment, which means to work from home. Like it's part of who I am. When I had Tayla, I had that same blip. I got to work from home, loved it. It's almost
Mm.
like having the twins helped me to see again, like I'm supposed to be in this environment. It's an energy. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be around people, but it's more of like my home is where I work, and my where I work is where I play, and I get to invite people in. And so working from home, and then the next tax season came, and I had to be at work, and I had to work 60 hours and kill myself. And so it kind of was suddenly that awareness of, I say that my family is my most important value, and they are, but yet I don't really get to be with them. I'm at work. And it just got me to realize something needs to change. And I'm getting exhausted being here at work, doing tax seasons, doing the grind. So it was actually in 2016, which would have been 2 years after they were born, is
Okay.
when I was just like, that was my last tax season. I was done. And it was my husband that kept saying, just quit. And I'm like, what? What does that mean? What do you mean quit? And, what do I do? And I really didn't know when I was starting my business, prosperity alignment, but it was just one of those things like for me to follow my path and my intuition was I can't keep doing this, or
Right.
I'm going to literally not be here for my kids because I'm going to be a burned out, broken mom who has 3 kids, and my husband is already disabled, former Marine. Like, he's not going out and working, and needed me at home to help be supportive. And he was kind of like the stay at home mom. But it was just like, I can't do this. And I could already feel that path. And I think we all feel it. There's times when we know we can't do this anymore, but things tell us we should just stick it out. And I couldn't. And so I had to just leave it all.
I think that there's this internal battle, and I think it's both parents, but moms, maybe we feel it differently. I don't know if we feel it more, that working is taking care of our family, but it's also taking us from our family. And I mean, I've had times like that too. I didn't want to go to this job and spend all these hours and be away from my kids, and at the same time, I had to pay bills. And
Yeah.
there is this massive battle, internal battle between like, well, needing to earn money and needing to spend time with family. And yeah, my family is one of my absolutely top values. And it doesn't seem like it when you look at all of the time that you are gone and working. That it's a really, really tough thing to navigate. And I've been home for 6 years, working from home for 6 years now, this month that we're recording. And it's, it's still, it made it completely different for me, much better, challenging in different ways, but much better. So I'm so glad that you said that there was that blip with your daughter, because again, we're discussing not following your gut instinct, your intuition, not like knowing something's off and wanting to change it. And also, do you feel like sometimes we don't know what to change or how to change it? Like, what does that even look like? What does that mean?
Yeah. And when, because the
Okay,
timing,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always about timing, and you just like have this sense. And so for me, so much happened before I quit. Like so much was happening behind the scenes, and me having this knowing I'm leaving, I'm done, and I'm going to plan it, right? Like there is this part of me that plans and knew how my exit was going to be and knew I was going to quit after tax season, but not until I at least take my vacation after tax season. I earned it
Right.
and then I'll give notice. But in the meantime, I was already, going to a retreat in the middle of tax season, which I shouldn't have been able to do, to figure out how am I going to start a business, and then go to the attorney and get a business started. And my background is being in finances, and I've always been really good with money, so it was kind of like one of those things too where we have money set aside, and
Okay.
usually it's like you either do or you don't, but even if you do, you don't want to use it. And it was like,
Yeah.
but this, I think, is what it's for. Like, I don't know why I've been saving or what this is for, but clearly it's to help me get the heck out of doing what I can't do because it's going to kill me or it's going to crush my soul. And this is going to help it be okay if it's not producing income. And so I've been in this blessed situation where it's like, it just, it was working out. And what I've really found is the moment you make the decision, God and universe will conspire to help you and work in your favor, even if it's not the way in which you expected it.
Right.
But there was the
Right.
hardest part is making that decision to quit, to let something go, because the first thought is about money. But how am I going to make money, and where's it going to come from? How am I going to pay the bills? And if you base a decision on those pieces, you're not doing it for your aligned purpose. And your
Right.
intuition will be there to guide you if you're willing to actually listen to it.
I think also doors open. Once you make that decision
Yes.
and step into it, it's like, "Oh, all this was right here and we just didn't see it." Like you just didn't realize things were right there. And once you make that switch, it's not even like things open up. They were there. You just didn't see them,
You
right?
just
We get
suddenly
in our own way.
the blinders are off. Suddenly you're like seeing the opportunities or meeting the right people. And when I
Right.
really look back, based on my energy design, that's how it works for me.
Right.
I get the invitations to make the next leap. And it's like, oh, this was just a little different. I was moving from paycheck to being the entrepreneur and being more self employed. And again, that's one of the scariest pieces. But
Right.
just like parenting, you're going to do it even if you're not ready, right? It's going to happen. And it's like making a big shift to entrepreneurism, same thing. You just make it happen, you make it work if that's what you're led to do, and the timing feels right and you feel like, let's go for it.
You got involved with human design. So if people don't know what that is, and still, like, I know what it is, and I can pull up my chart, and I've asked you so many, like, where's my chart? And somebody's like, oh, you've done human design. What is your whatever? And I'm like, I look at it and it still doesn't make sense. When you explain it to me, I realize that the chart doesn't need to make sense. Me understanding how I work is what needs to make sense for me. You got involved in that. So explain it a little bit and jump into parenting with that.
Oh, yes. So it's a
Mhm.
blueprint. It's your astrological map. So it's a little different than astrology, right? Astrology just kind of like maps it. It's got all these pieces. It's more, you've got I can just kind of show, like, here's a chart of two people. So
Okay.
a chart is looking at who are you energetically? Where are the planets? And then it goes into even the Hindu chakra system. It looks at the Chinese I Ching. It brings in some quantum physics, some DNA aspects. There's all of these things that are interconnected. When you get your chart, there's a certain way of being within you. And so most of the time we're pushing to be like me. I was pushing to be a type in the CPA world. I am not. And I could do it, and I could do it very well. But over time, it was literally burning me out and exhausting me. So if we want to be in flow with those opportunities and having the awareness to see what shows up, when you're following your human design, it's that much easier. And so just like this chart with two people, I can say, here's me, here's Jen, here we are together. Or I can say, here's me and my child. And here's how we work together in relationship to either communicate well or not. And so for me and the twins, I have a certain way of helping all of their emotional energy and all of their energy that's stuck in the body. It doesn't naturally get to the throat. So with me, all of it can come out. And it's fascinating because just certain questions, I can ask them yes, no questions for their generator type. Are you upset? Uh-huh. Do you know why you're upset? Uh-huh. Can you tell me why you're upset? Uh-huh. And then it just pours out and all of the emotion gets out. My husband doesn't have that ability. And if you were to see them connect, he could ask the same questions and it's like, and it just like, there's a wall and it's not intentional. It's not that they don't want to talk to them. It's energetically, there is no freeway for that energy to get to the throat to be expressed. So the thing is, if he's the one saying, okay, I can't get them to open up, maybe it's for me to help get that out of them or help them release it because it's just an exit point for emotions. It's this way of knowing certain times with certain people, you either are pouring your guts out and telling people stuff that you would not tell someone else, or it's blocked. It's not going to come out. And so it's not that people are, emotionally like repressed. Sometimes we learn that. Sometimes the energies are not conducive for it to flow. It's not the right time or the right place. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I love that. So what could happen when you put your husband with each of the kids, he has a different process, a different way to talk to them than you do. Yes. Right.
Yes. And depending on who each child is with, they're going to pull out new energies with each other. So sometimes it's like if you're in a family with a couple kids and you're like, whoa, this just feels so easy. And then you add more and it feels chaotic. It's all part of the energy. Because if you have kids who suddenly have access to pull stuff out and they just want to talk, it's just part of the energy. And when you see it and you understand it, you go, wow, it's not my child being misbehaved or being loud. It's just they're feeling all this energy and it's like amping them up and they just want to release it and they want to be part of the conversation. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be included. And then there's intuitive aspects to the chart too, of knowing what are your ways of sensing or knowing, or maybe you have intuitive smell or ways of like touching. And there's just so many really cool pieces to know if this is how your child is, this is how you are, and you're different. Right. You're not raising them to be like you and do like you. You're actually allowing them to be unique in the way that they're meant to be.
I see it with my 12-year-old all the time. And so I know people will understand this because if my husband says, "Hey, it's time to go brush your teeth," she's like, "Okay, Dad." And if I say it's time to go brush your teeth, she's like, just clenches her jaw, just irritated with me. It doesn't matter what I say or the voice, the intonation, it makes no difference. Her reaction to me saying it, and it's just absolutely perplexing. And also, I remember doing love languages with my kids. This is way lower key than human design. But one of my kids, I had this rule when we went shopping not to ask for stuff. And part of that was because it drove me crazy. It's like a pet peeve. And also, I didn't always have the money. So saying no made me feel bad. And so we got into this habit of saying, "Hey, Mom, did you see this?" I'm like, oh yeah, actually we need to get Annie's mac and cheese. So go ahead and put that. So it was a way to not be confrontational and
Mm,
for me to always feel like I was saying no. Just alert me that you see something. And if it's something we can get, I'll allow you to get it. But he was so much more asky than the other kids. And his love language was gifts. And I remember
mm,
figuring that out and being like, oh my gosh, now I understand every tension that we have every time we walk into a store. And you're talking about this on such a like grand scale. So I used to throw a pack of gum in the cart for him because I knew it was, and he would be in tears as a little kid because I got a pack of gum. This
oh,
is like on such a bigger scale than
yeah.
that. It's how you do lots of different things. So people should definitely understand the how it works. Um,
And
and
it's
I
just
love that.
it's based on birth information. So the
Right.
key is the birth time. So most places will log that, and even generations like my grandparents' birth certificate had the time, but
Yeah.
not all do. So that's
Right.
the piece where, again, if you cannot find the time, we can either try and back into it. There's some ways to do that, but I run free charts because the reality is, if you can at least just know the basic, like let's say the type, and you're a generator and I'm a projector, there's already a difference. And if you know the difference, like me being the projector, so is my husband and our oldest, but the twins are generators. I know
Ah,
how to talk to the twins with yes, no, but to ask my husband and my daughter open ended questions, right? So there's different ways of communicating that you have to know,
so
but that just
interesting.
makes things so much easier.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is crazy awesome because you and I have talked a little bit on how we react, like you and I react, because you know to ask me yes and no questions. You also taught me to trust my gut feeling, and at first I was like, "I don't know what you're
Mm.
talking about." And you said, "If I ask you a question that's yes, no, you know instantly in your gut, you know
From
the answer
here, not
from
here.
here." Right.
Yes, and that was the part you had to learn to
Right.
drop and be in the body, and that's usually the hardest part for people
It
if you've
it
lived your
is.
whole life up here.
I have. But that's why I said in the beginning, like, the coaching made such a significant impact because now I don't even think about it or question it, and I have no guilt or reservation or hesitation about what my answer is. I own it. I just own
Yay.
that. Anyway, yeah, that's a shout out to you, but also it's an explanation of when you know that, when I have to ask myself yes and no questions.
Mhm.
I have to
Yeah,
have my husband say, "Can you rephrase that for me?" Like, I can't function as with those open-ended questions, so I'm
right.
feeling your twins hardcore because my I go into my brain and I try to process it and I can't.
Open-ended
So,
is too expansive because for
yeah.
you, it's direct, it's, like, specific, and if I
Yep.
give you this open question, you're like, you're searching for the answer, and it's just there's no
It's not
certainty,
there.
and it's the
Right.
reverse for me. I actually
Right.
need more expansive space so that I can be like, "Oh, there it is," right? But if you
Okay.
ask yes, no, I'm gonna, like, create my own expansive energy and go out, "Well, yes, I could say yes, but no," and you're going, "Oh my god, lady, it's just a yes, no, like, it's one word, just give me one word, come on." But it's what we do with our kids, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah.
ha if you have children that you ask a simple yes, no, and they never give you a yes, no, then you've got to flip it. You've got to ask them more of an open ended question. And if you just put this statement, it's gold. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if you would like to go to the park. It already creates the space that they really need, and they'll probably say yes or no very quickly.
It's so it's so fascinating to me, so fascinating. And I learned from you to, say things to people when people are trying to tell me something and they're, like, going on and my brain can't stick with it. I say, "I prefer if you're very direct and really blunt. Just condense it to something short." And somebody looked at me, this happened, like, 2 weeks ago, and the guy looked at me and said, "Really?" Because 'Cause I'm female, so I'm all feeling, right? I'm like, "I'm telling you, I can handle blunt directness. I really prefer it." And he made one statement, and I was like, "That's all I needed to know, because this conversation was making my head explode." So you learn even, like, how to ask people, but how to know how to ask for yourself, I guess, and you're
Totally.
teaching your kids that.
Yes.
Let's wrap up and end. People have the links, but the easiest place to find you, connect with you, and your coaching. I have this up. I had this up on purpose. Where is my mouse? I don't have any idea. Okay, there it is. Um, you have an event right now. It's in the middle of it. It's the Courage to Thrive event. So on your website, the prosperityalignment.com website, you have upcoming, or you have events, and some are upcoming and some are past. So anyway, I thought that one was really cool and exciting. Tell me the easiest place and way and what you do for coaching, and like what questions people need to ask to know if you're a good fit or just a strategy session.
Okay, so my prosperityalignment.com. I've got all kinds of stuff
Okay.
there. You can find me on Instagram. I'm
Ah,
more
cool.
there than, let's say, Facebook, but I also have videos you can watch on YouTube. So I've got stuff kind of
Yes.
wherever that you can
Yes.
find out, be intrigued, have questions. I do have a free breakthrough session, prosperity breakthrough session, if you wanted to see if we're a fit. Really, what I love helping anyone, individuals, couples, entrepreneurs, is navigating the energies beneath your life, your business, your money. So at the end of the day, yes, I have all kinds of financial background. I focus on prosperity in the way in which you show up. Align who you are with what you want, because if you don't know who you are, it's really hard to go navigate on the easy path or the flow, to get what you want. And then sometimes, especially, if you are a woman, it's like we don't always know what we want because we don't want to put ourselves first, and we put our kids first, and it's like, who, me, what do I want? Oh, it doesn't matter. It does. And so if you're in transition, or you're having this knowing that you're supposed to be on a different path, and you don't know what that looks like, and you don't know how to get there, I love opening you to really see yourself, to see the gifts, to understand the energy. So whether that's through coaching and weaving in human design, I do remote energy work as well to help
Oh,
clear the
yes.
energy and blocks. So I do monthly group sessions that are on a donation base. I always find that's a great way, if people want to see how it works, then they can try that out. Yeah. So did that answer all the questions? I know there were a
I
lot you
think
gave me.
so. I think so. No, you people can go anywhere to get information in the way they want and then just reach out to you and jump into stuff. Yeah. Thank you, Alana, so much for being on. I
You're so
love this
welcome.
story.
Yes. Mwah. Yay. Thanks for having me. This is so much fun.